Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another Top Cut breakdown video. In today's video, we have two tournaments to go over. The first one being the Core TCG July Online Regional, and the second, man, I have no idea how to say this, the Goupia France Regional. Sorry for that most likely ginormous butcher of whatever this area is. But yeah, we're going over those two tournaments in today's video. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to bind the cards for any decks we talk about, or any trading cards for that matter, it does really help me out if you use my link in the description to TCG Player. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the core event. So we scroll down for the details here. Once again, shout out to Eggman for all this data. We have July 30th, the core TCG Regional, 192 players. So this tournament met the cap. 8 rounds of Swiss. We know it was best of one pre-side because it was an online regional. So we have Jared Lopez taking first place with Self-Control 21. This is the Expert Deck 21. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that this deck actually manages to win an event. So huge shout out to him for that accomplishment. But also, I think we might be on a pretty insane win streak here for Jared. He's been doing some crazy things between last format and this format. So big shouts out to him. So now we go through the rest of the top 16 here. We have a lot of Android 21 and a lot less Gohan than we're used to. So this is a pretty interesting shift up because it's typically been the reverse. We've seen a whole lot of Gohan, even in the American events, and just much less power absorbed 21. But this deck takes up, tied for most top cut slots here. We do also have SSG Trunks though. So I think from the past several weeks, Trunks has pretty much, established itself as a meta deck in this format. It's been very consistent for the past several weeks, and in this tournament, it takes up quite a bit of the top cut. So this is probably the black representative, and it's probably, one of the top decks of this format, just based on results from the past few weeks. We do, however, from yellow, have a couple representatives. We have Maz Vegeta and Golden Frieza taking up a combined, I think, 3 top cut slots. Going through the rest of it, we do have 2 Trunks Reboot, which is also making a reappearance from last week. So maybe this is also something that's kind of solidifying itself as a more consistent top cut representative. And now going to the really interesting ones, we have the Set 21 Cell deck and the Set 21 Oob deck. Some really just like outlier, unexpected appearances in this top cut, and we're going to take a look at those lists for sure. Now first, I want to take a look at Jared's first place 21 Self-Control list, because I think it had been a week or two before we'd even seen this deck top in this format, and it finally makes an appearance here, and it actually wins the event outright. Of course, that was very much due to the fact that Jared is an insane pilot with all decks including blue-green cards. So again, huge shouts out to him. But let's take a look. We have the clean 50 card list. We have, of course, the most broken secret rare in the game, in my opinion, just wiping the entire board, gaining life back, and protection on top of all that, both from counterplays and from removal. Card's absolutely insane. Now, I look through here, and what I find really funny is that I don't see any copies of Vile Creator Android 20. It's not a card that anyone has to play by any means, but I feel like that's just so broken to be able to directly search this card from the deck that it's worth like a one-of slot in any blue-green deck. But that's just my little nitpick. Going through here, we have, of course, our 4 copies, 21 Trading Places. This is the card that allowed the deck to really just see any type of success. This has to be maybe the most successful, singleton legacy support card we've ever seen, because it really just took this deck from unplayable to, the higher tiers of competitive play, at least for last format, and now it's got an event win under his belt for set 21. So real big props to this card for sure. Bad Omen, one of our win conditions. Of course, we have our Floodgate in the form of 17 Defending Friends. The main card the deck revolves around that we're able to recycle a whole lot is Android 18 Bionic Blitz. You're able to put this card from your drop back into your energy and then back into your hand to reuse it over and over and over again. And a real kind of underdog card in this deck is Zamasu Teamwork Undying. That +1 auto, when a card in your energy area is placed in the owner's drop, draw 1 card and switch this card to active mode. That effect is ridiculous, man, because you can proc that during both players' turns in this deck. So if you get that engine rolling, you're drawing a ridiculous amount of cards while taking cards away from your opponent. It gets really unfair if you get to establish all that. And very interesting tech as well. We have Pretty Black Hole. So you sacrifice one of your own battle cards, you draw a card, and then you get to pop cards on your opponent's board equal to the cost of the battle card that you KO'd on your own board. I do kind of wonder what the main combo with this card was, but it's always been a very interesting card for the fact that it's a negate that actually draws a card. Yes, you do have to sack something on your board, which is going to reduce your board presence, but it can still be a very efficient form of negating attacks. Now we go down the side deck here. Okay, so we have Terrible Creator in the side deck. So we're searching out the SCR, I guess maybe in specific matchups. I'd be curious to know when this card actually came in. But I always find it funny when people are side decking Z battle cards, because the Z deck is getting tighter and tighter, and we're just looking for more ways to kind of swap cards in and out of our Z decks for you know, different matchups. So we have that here with Jiren the Immovable and Frieza Resurrected Ambition in the sideboard. Also very interesting that we go to a full 4 copies of Fused Zamasu Didi's Wrath in the sideboard as well. And this is really interesting because with red pretty much being non-existent in this format, which it didn't even manage to take a single top cut slot in this tournament, this card's a lot safer. I think you have to worry about some yellow decks because any Goku or Vegeta yellow deck has the ability to negate Zamasu's skills and KO it. That's unfortunate. But besides that, I mean, Zamasu Didi's Wrath is safe against a good majority of the format. But yeah, very good list here. Congrats to Jared again. Let's take a look at some of the other interesting stuff. So we have the Oob list that managed to top this event. Now, upon first glance, this list is very, very archetype heavy. And it managed to aim as high as, I believe, yeah, 4th place in this tournament. So very strong finish for a large event. Yes, it was best of 1. That always leads to some interesting things. But this is still a very, very good finish for this deck. So I think where this leader kind of shines is in that ability to draw a card, basically if your opponent doesn't combo. So with that, you're generating extra draws. And we know that whenever a leader has the ability to potentially draw 2 cards per turn, it can be very, very powerful. Now, we've gone over all these Oob cards here on the channel. I don't have them all memorized by heart, and there's quite a few of them, but basically the greater gist of it all is that I believe the 3 and 4 drop Oobs allow you to cheat out the 6s and the 8s. Now, Focused Full Strength Blow, we do know is a very good card in most mono blue decks because they've all been playing them. Like, all the Soul Strikers we've seen of this format had been playing this card. Now, this card reduces its own cost down to 2, basically when your opponent has 2 or more Z energy. So it's a very easy requirement to meet, especially in like, well, just about in any deck, to be honest. But in this deck, you're giving your opponent a bunch of Z energy, so this card's pretty much always going to be live no matter what. And it punishes your opponent for countering, and I would say we're in a pretty heavy negate / floodgate format right now, so this card's going to pick up a whole lot of value. However, we don't get to see Oob body resistance very much because while it is technically playable in any blue Earthling or Majin deck, there's just not a whole bunch of them. But let's give this card another read. So we have permanents. If it's your turn and this card is under a leader, the leader on top of this card gets minus 5,000 power, and this card can't be removed from the leader area by a skill other than this card's skill. So you're going to put it under your opponent's leader, and that leader is going to get minus 5,000. Auto limit 1, when this card's played from your deck or hand, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and add it to its owner's Z energy, and then place this card from the battle area under your opponent's leader at the end of the turn. Then play this card from under your opponent's leader at the start of your main phase. So it's definitely very efficient for a 1-cost 20k, plus all the other ways that the deck can just cheat it out from the deck. And then you're giving your opponent's leader a debuff, which against any leader-centric deck, which I guess maybe there aren't a ton of right now. Like Majin Vegeta definitely is one example of a leader-centric deck, but it can just be good in those scenarios. So yeah, card's definitely solid. And we're also choosing to play SSB Kaioken Goku United Divinity. Now, this card has typically been played in blue ramp decks. This deck is not really ramping, especially if we look down at the Z deck. We don't see any copies of Android 21, nor in the side deck. But I mean, hey, if you get to turn 4, even if you're not ramping, you just untap all that energy. And it is actually a pretty interesting call here because, you know, everyone was playing Cunning in their main deck when Crimson Goku started playing this SCR. And obviously now Crimson Goku's banned, but Cunning is still popular because of Android 21. So this seems like a little bit risky just because Cunning is still in the format. Like, let's say Blue was just playing Gohan Beast, or like, 21 was in the deck and people weren't playing the Cunnings in their sideboard. Then this would be a really cool, like, off-meta SCR/deck to bring, because there would be no hard counters to this card. But the Cunnings are still somewhat popular in this format because of Android 21. So I do think this is a very interesting pick overall, for sure. But yeah, the rest of the list looks quite good. I am liking to see more and more players play closer to 50 card decks because it's just, very, very consistent. Going down to the side deck here, a lot of cool stuff. Protector of the People, Black Smoke, Deborah. Protector of the People, definitely a very interesting one. Blue does have 17 defending friends, but other than that, Mono Blue's a little bit short on floodgates. We also have Goku striving to be the best. So this is really good against a lot of Z cards because a lot of them are pretty low cost, like 2 cost or 1 cost. I do wonder what other decks this is in against though, because red is again not super popular in this format. And then we of course have the Jiren, the Koitsukai, and the Burnished Bonds Borgos to punish our Golden and Soul Striker opponents. Let's take a look now at the green Cell list. So we are playing Ginger Town. There are versions of this deck that actually don't play Ginger Town. Obviously, there are like certain Cell cards you would not be able to play as a result of that, but I mean, it really just depends on the build you're going for. Now, this is definitely a successor heavy build. I was messing with this deck a little bit myself, so I kind of have a gist of what's going on here. But yeah, I think like going into this card, Cell Unthinkable Perfection is actually insane. Like, taking a look at your opponent's hand, dropping their best 3 battle cards, of which this can also hit SCRs. Like, I don't know, for some reason, most cards like this are not able to actually hit SCRs, but this card is. That's absolutely insane. And then negating your opponent's leader for the turn, it's relevant depending on matchup, but it's still a nice effect to have. But yeah, going into this card as your boss is definitely not a bad thing at all. Now we go down to the Z deck here. We of course have our Chain of Z leaders and our Cell Greedy Absorption. And our one off archetype card is Jiren, the Immovable. Definitely very interesting not to see Frieza Resurrect Inhibition. I don't know, playing Gohan a lot, I feel like that Z card is very, very good, but Jiren, of course, is insane as well. Going down to the side deck. Okay, this is super cool. We actually have the OG Cell Chain side decked in here. So our one of Growing Evil Life Form, which, you know, in some ways is searchable in this deck, but I don't think it's directly deck searchable. So you'd have to, like, you know, fish it off the top 5. And then you have Evolving Evil Life Form in your deck, as well as Perfect Force to just play for 3 energy if you happen to draw in the Growing Evil Life Form Cell. And what's cool too is your Unawakened Leader actually puts androids back to the bottom of your deck. So if you happen to draw like any of the Cell Chain pieces, you can just bottom deck them, and then it's live to go again with the Cell Chain, which is pretty cool. And I guess like worst case scenario too, you could just hard cast Evolving Evil Life Form on 5 if you absolutely needed to. That's also a thing I guess you could do. 4 copies of Cell Abominable Power. Okay, to be perfectly honest, I don't remember this card does, so let's give it a quick read. It's a super rare from an older set. I think it looks like set 17. Then we have Double Strike Dual Attack, EX Evolve for 3 over a Cell with an energy cost of 8 or 9, so, you know, over our successor guys. Auto, when this card attacks, choose 1 card in your opponent's hand and discard it. Auto, when this card is using a combo from your drop area, if it would leave your combo area this turn, remove it from the game instead. And then activate battle for 1, use this card in a combo from your drop. Additionally, if the leader is a green or yellow android, this card gets plus 5k combo for the battle. So I do wonder what the main purpose of this card was. Was it really just for that free 10k combo, or was it more for the evolve and just like continued pressure? Because dual attack double strike 30k is definitely quite beefy. I would love to know what the main purpose of this card was. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the France event. So we scroll down here, we see 121 players, 6 round of Swiss, top 8 cut. I'm pretty sure this is an in-person event. Very, very cool to see an over 100 player event outside of the US. We don't see that too often. It's very nice to see players come together and just, you know, play some Dragon Ball. So we have first place Launch. We'll definitely take a look at that list. Second place Android 21 from Power Absorbed. Third place Soul Strikers. Soul Strikers had some shaky results in this format. Some events doing very well, some events not really showing up much at all. And then fourth place, the ever expected Results of Training. Now going through this wheel here, we do see some red. Obviously we had a red deck win the event, but Launch is not your typical red deck in the form of like aggro. But we do have 1 Pan and 1 U7 Goku here. This is a deck that many of us pegged as like a potential up-and-comer because of the hits to SS4 Goku and Sin Shenron, like a red deck that could possibly step up and do some things. So we're gonna look at that list as well. We do have Green Master Roshi here, another interesting pick for sure. Trunks, you know, just basically making another claim to its fame here. Blue Baby here, which I do think is a strong aggro contender as well. And we do have 1 Golden Frieza rounding out our top cut here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the launch list. So of course we have our blue-red arrival combo shenanigans. That's always kind of revolved around Cooler Tyrannical Assaults. Play it for 1. It comes in, burns 2 guys for 10k, ignoring barrier, and makes your opponent mill a card. So this deck is just like the epitome of defense typically. I mean, you're able to just combo so efficiently. Every time you combo, you draw a card. You have Senzu Bean to untap more energy, make more plays. There are quite a few new cards here, which I think is very interesting. Like we have Whis Angel's Teachings, which unfortunately off the top of my head I forget what it does, and this website is in French. But I think there was some like crazy ruling about this card where it actually served as like some sort of floodgate, if I'm remembering correctly. And then going through the rest here, we actually have 4 copies of Chilled from the Anniversary box, which again, unfortunately, I don't read French, so I don't remember what this card does, but I wonder how it definitely performed in the deck. We do have 4 copies of Gohan Defeating the Demon, which is a simple 1 cost depending on the number of Z energy that you have, and launch makes Z energy super efficiently. And then we have the side deck down here. Interesting, we have Piccolo 5 seconds to eradication. This is a barrier double striker that punishes your opponent for negating attacks and prevents them from blocking. So very cool tech for your defensive stally decks. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Master Roshi build. Going through this, from what I know, we do have a unison package here of 4 Demigra and 3 Frieza. Demigra is a pretty cool unison to play around. I mean, it always has been, but like in this format where like any unison below 2 cost is in fear of getting smoked, Demigra investing for 1 does feel pretty good, because if your opponent invests 2 to kill it, you kind of feel okay about that. And then we do have our actual Turtle School engine here. So we have Goku skills improved, Krillin skills improved, which can go over your 1 cost Goku and Krillin if the conditions are met. We do have our Fated Rivals engine, of course. We have 2 copies of Goku to Oob Newfound Journey, which is playable in this deck, searches for any World Tournaments or Earthling, I believe, regardless of color. That's very good. And we do have Vegeta Last Ditch Transformation, which is a simple 1 cost critical blocker in a deck with a field card. Very cool stuff to see this deck do some things in this format. And then we wrap it up with U7 Goku. Can this deck actually make a full-fledged return? I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. Now, this build actually goes into Baby Juvenile Parasite, which we did see U7 builds of the past do as well. Obviously, before the Piccolo Jr. Unison was banned, or limited to 1, I guess. That was a really popular unison in the deck as well. But a lot of builds were playing Baby, and getting that plus 1k for being tapped out was very nice for a bit more of like a mid-rangey red deck like this. Overall, though, we have a 58 card list. We just see a lot of returning faces with all the U7 cards that the deck used to play. Sign of Mastery, Android 17 Universal Survival, Golden Frieza Universal Survival, and of course the ever-beloved SSB Vegeta SCR, which just burns your opponent for 1, wipes the board of literally everything. Very insane card. And then down to the side deck, looks like this player only sided 3 cards, or maybe we're just missing a bit from the upload here. But we do have, of course, our free counter if our opponent uses a 1 cost extra card without paying its energy cost. But overall, guys, lots of interesting stuff from this tournament. I'll post the link here in the description so you guys can view the deck list. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.